Hey everyone, I apologize if this goes off prematurely and if I have to do it in two parts, just in case, I don't really know. But I was just watching Andre Meadows, Black Nerd Comedy, Black Nerd Comedies. He did a video called His Nintendo Story, or My Nintendo Story. So I thought, because of course in the letters he asked at the bottom, at the end of his video, what everybody else's NES stories were and everything. So I kind of thought I'd throw mine out there, for the heck of it. Because it is the 30th anniversary of Nintendo and the 30th anniversary of Super Mario Bros. And quite honestly, folks, me and my family's Nintendo, our story with Nintendo, our history with it, didn't start about until 2 years later. Yeah, about the same time Andres did, well maybe a little earlier. You see, 2 years later, in 1987, my sister, my second oldest sister, was turning 10 years old. And any time you turn 10, or something was happening, any time you turn 10, like I said, anytime you turn 10 or whatever, you ended up getting something nice. Now, my family, quite honestly, was not financially good, well, okay, I'll put it this way. There were times, just like with Andre's family and any family, we varied. We were good at times financially and we were bad. Obviously, when we moved to Fremont, we were financially okay because for my sister's 10th birthday in 1987, she ended up getting an NES action set. How do I know? Because we have photograph evidence of it. And I'm not going to show that photo due to personal reasons. But she ended up getting an NES action set. Now, here's the thing. Like any young sibling, baby sibling, I didn't know better. So there were times that I would see something hidden and all that, and I would end up spoiling it. I think there were a few times I did that. And my sisters wouldn't be happy, my parents wouldn't be happy, but I was a kid, I was naive. I was naive at the time. I didn't know any better. So they would... Boy, looks like a helicopter took off in a flash. I wonder what's going on. That's the loudest I've ever heard one take off. But anyway, like I said, I didn't know any better. In fact, anybody at a young age, either you're the young sibling, probably the baby sibling or not, you probably didn't know any better either. That is until your parents would tell you, if you keep this up, Santa ain't going to bring you anything. So you basically, I don't know, I don't see nothing, I don't know nothing, I don't hear nothing. That's basically how you had to be. And with me, it was kind of hard. And with me, my parents now basically had to hide a lot of stuff extremely hard because of the fact that if I ended up finding it, they were afraid I was going to say something. So, long story short, my sister's 10th birthday comes up. Everybody's there, family, family, her friend, family, relatives, cousins. We're all there. We're all there basically. Family is there, and she got a lot of presents. I know, well, she got a decent amount of presents for 10 years old. But then my parents, they bring out this big box. It's from them. Well, they address it from them and us. So me, my sister, and from them. Basically from Mom, Dad, Brian, and older sister. So she ends up seeing this big box. And I could tell, and I know exactly how she felt. Because 2 years later, I ended up getting a semi-big present. Not as big as hers, but semi-big. And I remember, she had the big present, and I can faintly recall that all of us pretty much knew that, well, I didn't know really, but I had an idea it had to be something good. I was like, ooh, she got something good, But I think my older sister, my cousins, everybody pretty much knew that she got an NES action set. I mean, the box was about the same size. and everything. So we pretty much knew she had an NES action set. But we didn't know at the time. But honestly, even though we probably had a clue, we didn't acknowledge it because, being kids and all that, we kind of had an idea, but then we thought, but then there was also, I can honestly tell you, even though I can't faintly remember, or visually remember, I can't faintly visually remember, I can tell you honestly, even though I think a lot of us knew, still some of us that still have doubts, because you can build something, you can wrap a present up and make it look like it's going to be something big and special, and then when you open it up, and then you open up the box, it's just something else completely, but you did it that way to make it look spectacular. I can tell you honestly, even though visually I can't remember, because I was a kid, I was like 8 years old. No, I wasn't even 8. I was 7 still. I was going to be 8 that year. I was 7 years old, 7 and a half, going on 8 in July that year. So I couldn't really remember. But all I remember is my sister, she ended up opening it, and the picture tells the story. She was like, she couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe it. She got herself an NES action set. Our parents had basically gotten her an NES action set. Now, here was the deal, though. Here was the deal. Here was the deal, because here was the deal. And I'm sure a lot of families, a lot of you out there pretty much have gone through this. Even though it was her present, this is the one thing my family, and I'm sure, again, a lot of families have gone through this. You could probably tell me this from experience. Have gone through this as well. Basically, even though it was hers, she had to keep it in the living room. No joke. I think maybe once or twice they tried to let her have it in her room, but she kept staying up or something. I can't really remember. But basically, she kept the Nintendo in the living room. And looking back on it, it was like, well, what was the point? And looking back on it, I think she said maybe a couple of times, like, looking back on it, I think she said maybe once or twice, like, well, when we would reminisce about this stuff, she'd be like, what was the point of even giving me that if it had to be stuck in the living room? Well, you see, it's kind of like that's kind of a tradition with family. With any kind of family. You could give it as a present to somebody for their birthday or Christmas, but it's actually for everybody. Yes, it's yours, so that if it's still around and you're moving out, you take it with you because it's technically your property, but if you're living under the same roof, it belongs to the family. It's kind of like, it's kind of like a Blu-ray player. I own a Blu-ray in there, I own the Wii U in there, I own the Wii in there. Every game console I have here is mine. So if I ever moved out, beep, 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 beep. There go the game consoles. Honest to God truth. What I would do, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree on doing this, I would probably buy some backup game consoles for them to have here. Like I'm gonna buy some for you guys. You can have them here. There you go. But that's what I would do. I mean, honestly, I bought them with my money, so they would be going with me if I ever moved out. That's the honest truth. That's the honest truth. And, that's the same thing with my sister. And she still has, I think she still has it somewhere. Either it's my brother-in-law's or it's, my brother-in-law has his, but my sister, I'm sure she has hers somewhere. They still have it. They still have the original NES. So, yeah, basically, if she had kept that all in one piece, the game and everything, she would have done exactly what I said. The day she would have moved out on her own and everything, she would have taken that game system, took it with her, because that was hers. Because she's going to pass it on to her kids. I guess. I don't really know. But I can tell you this though, we still have the game. That's right. Now you might say, well, is that the original? Is that from the original set? Technically, no, it's not. This is actually from Game Exchange. Yeah, but this is basically, they basically still have this game, the original one, somewhere in the house. But, long story short, we had the Nintendo for a while. Unfortunately though, as far as I can remember, this was the only real game we had. Yeah, I'm not joking. This was the only real game we had. Why? Because like anybody, like Andre and his family and anybody else, financially, like I said, we varied. At times we were good, at times we were bad. You know, when we were in Fremont, we were okay. When we moved around, we weren't. Fremont and Waterford were probably the two places financially where we were fine, where we were okay. Why, you may ask? I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why specifically. You see, Waterford was a brand new house. And, you know, financially, we were settled. We were good. Gas-wise, though, for my dad, it wasn't so good because he had to go from Waterford to Union City to work. You know, I know nowadays that's, you know, the same thing with a lot of people that work in Patterson. They live in Patterson, they go to Oakland or San Francisco to work. I get that, I understand that. But, like I said, you know, that was the only financial bad thing about it, was the fact that we had to keep going back, you know, he had to keep going back and forth. Otherwise, though, financially we seem to be okay. Financially we seem to be alright. And I'll tell you why. Because I don't know if it was in Waterford or it was back in Hayward. I think it was Waterford because I think we moved back to Hayward the following year, I'm not really sure. The Nintendo was always was kind of a connecting tool. The Nintendo was kind of a connecting tool between us and our families, our cousins and all that. Because it was a bit of a competition at times, especially with my cousins, especially with the one group of cousins we had in Hayward. Because you see, they would always be ahead of us on a lot of things. They'd be ahead of us on Transformers, they'd be ahead of us on video games. It'd be like, wow. You know, and it, well, of course it didn't help that the family, it didn't help that their parents had very good, financially good jobs. Because, well, one, they owned their house, I believe, and two, they financially helped them out a little bit more to be able to get other things. So, what happened was, basically, they would always be ahead of us on a lot of things. We'd go over to the house, you know, like anybody who had cousins or friends who had more games, we would play the games. Heck, they got the freaking Sega Genesis before we even thought of getting one, and we never did. So they got the Sega Genesis, we would go over there and play the Sega Genesis. You know, so, you know, we would end up doing all this, right? And they always seem to be a step ahead of us on a lot of things. However, we beat them to one thing though, as far as I know. In 1989, when The Wizard came out, we got a sneak peek that year of Super Mario Bros. 3. Now my cousins had Super Mario Bros. 2. And we didn't. We wanted it, but we never got it. We rented it or borrowed it, but we never were able to really play it as our own. So when The Wizard came out in theaters, of course we waited till it came out on VHS to watch it. We saw it on VHS. Just like any kid, we're blown away with the revelation or revealing of Super Mario Bros. Studio on there. And then later that year, I think it was that year, later that year, for Christmas, I remember there was this small package, a box package, and it said to Brian and my sisters, to my sisters Stephanie and Shannon, it said to Brian, Stephanie, and Shannon, it said, from Santa. And we're thinking, well, what is this, right? Now you would think, of course, my older sister, being about 14 at the time, something like that, she's starting to get away from the whole Santa deal, right? Not saying he isn't real, not saying he isn't real. For any kids that are watching, he is real. But she started to get away from that Santa motif. She still believed, but she was still getting away from it. My second older sister started to go that direction. Me, of course, being 10 years old, 11 years old, still, I believed in everything, but I think I was slowly getting away from it as well. Slow, very slow. So it was kind of a step-by-step process. We still believe, because yes, he is real. For any kids that are watching, he is real. We slowly started to get away from that. And then one Christmas, our belief got renewed. We started to believe again because of the fact that there was this box in the shape of an original Nintendo box, Nintendo game box. And it was addressed to me and my sisters. It says from Santa. So we opened it up. We took turns opening it. Well, they let me open it. And they basically said, okay, Brian, you go ahead, you open this one. So I opened it, and lo and behold, Super Mario Bros. 3. That's right. Lo and behold, Super Mario Bros. 3. I can't remember if this is the original one. I think it is. I think this is our original Mario Bros. 3. Because I remember buying another one back at the Game Exchange. But yeah, I think this is it. This is our original Super Mario Bros. 3 cartridge. Our original one. And I remember we were just like, we couldn't believe it. We were like, Mario Bros. 3! Because that was the game kids wanted. And just like with the NES Action Set and the NES Deluxe Set, when it came to the Christmas season, you barely had any idea you were going to get it. You even thought to yourself, Santa's not even going to be able to get this game. It's going to be so popular. But yet, Santa pulled through. And of course, in reality, and folks, cover the kids' ears right now. Cover the kids' ears right now. Alright, got them covered? Cool. In reality, we knew that our parents had somehow garnered these. They somehow got a copy of Super Mario Bros. 3, and it was like unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's like we couldn't believe that they had gotten this. Because like I said, just like with the NES Action Set, just like with the Deluxe Set, there was no way you could get your hands on this. No way. And they found a way to do it. Found a way to get a Super Mario Bros. 3. That was unbelievable. So, we ended up having at least 2 games at that time. I think maybe we had a third one, not really sure. But 1990, I think we got that in either 89 or 90. I can't really remember. It was at Christmas, I know that. And I also know, I think it was around that same Christmas, I ended up getting the TurboGrafx 16. So yeah, here's what was funny about this. My sister, so here's what's funny. For my second older sister's 10th birthday, she gets the NES. For my older sister's 15th birthday, or 14th birthday, I think it was 15th or 14th, one of them, she ends up getting the Game Boy. For my 10th birthday in '89, I get a Power Master Optimus Prime. And then I think later that year or the year later, I end up entering the game system. I end up entering the get a game console for a gift realm, if you will. Because in Christmas, I think of 1990, I ended up getting the TurboGrafx 16. I ended up getting the TurboGrafx 16. And yes, just like my sister when she had the NES, it ended up staying in the living room. It's like, again, what was the point of buying the system for us? For me, for her, if we gotta leave it in the living room. But of course, being kids and parents, they didn't want to risk the fact that even when school started back up, we'd be like at night going like pew 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 pew. They didn't want to risk that fact or that chance.